Alright friends, as we continue, we've now discussed the starting point of 457 BC, which is the start route of 457. See here it says 490 miles till station number 2. So from 457 BC to 34 AD we had the 490 miles, the 70 weeks. And from the starting point of 457 we have 2,300 miles, or years, till station number 3, to exit 1844. Now we've discussed station number 1, which was the cross, and station number 2, 34 AD, corporate repentance. And the probation for the Jewish nation closed. Jesus said, "Your house is left unto you desolate." There's the 7 churches, 5 were told to repent. But now we're going to continue as we go forward, because remember with the 2300 and the 490 years starting in 457 BC, we have 2 chronologies at the beginning. The 490 goes to 34 AD. The 2300 goes to Daniel 8:14 in 1844. Which is why there's, with the 2300 and the 1290 terminating in 1844, we have the 2300 and the 1290, 2 chronologies to prove Daniel 8:14 in 1844. So there's 2 chronologies at the beginning with the, I'm pointing back here on the timeline, 457 BC, the 2300 commencing, and the 490. 2 chronologies at the beginning, 2 chronologies at the end. But specifically, 2 chronologies, 2300 and 1290, prove Daniel 8:14. Okay, and as we get back to this, on page 3, we have exit 554, which is right here. Exit 554, 1260 and 1290 miles, or years. This took place at exit 554. So what took place? Justinian's pragmatic sanction in 554, which, remember in Revelation 17, the woman rides the beast. Okay? It's a combination. In Daniel 8, the little horn, a combination of a priest, king, combined. A counterfeit man in linen, and 5 kings. Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon. 5 warlords. And that pragmatic sanction is what gave license to this priest-king combined of this little horn, the woman, in 554, with Justinian and Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon, and this transgression and abomination of desolation that lasted for 1290 years. Because remember, Admete is about until when concerning the daily and the transgression against the daily. Well, the man in linen said unto 1844, and as we showed in the prior video with the chart, all you have to do is count back 1290 years and you have 554. So what took place? The kings and rulers from different highways and villages knelt at her feet and were seduced by her beauty. This took place at exit 554 on the highway road map. And some individuals who got off on that exit traveled for 1,260 miles or years. Okay? On this alternate route, which was also on the road map. It was a bit confusing, but all wasn't lost, since there was another exit just 30 miles, or 30 years, to exit 1844. Since there was another exit just 30 miles after exit 1844. 30 years from 1814 to 1844, or 30 miles. Okay? It just so happens that for 1,290 miles, starting at exit 554, some travelers actually forgot that there was a road map. It wasn't understood that the man in linen said that the 1290 has to terminate in 1844, and so therefore from 1211, from the time, 1290 years, doing here, brings you to this point, and therefore we have the correct dates and not the mistake in some of the figures on the chart, 508, 538, 1798. His hand was over and hit a mistake in some of the figures. Admete, the Admete road sign on the road map is the evidence that his hand is removed. Okay? The beautiful and cruel, evil woman made sure that the villagers, as well as other travelers on 554, would not be able to purchase copies of the road map. That began at Route 457. She also hurt many people on the highway and enforced her own laws and spoke evil words against the Son of the Father, who was the true priest king and creator of the road map. She exalted herself in the place of the true priest king and called herself the queen of the highway. She even had 5 kings as warlords, Revelation 17:10, that controlled that strip of the highway for 1,260 miles or years, from exit 554 up to exit 1814. Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon controlled this strip of the highway, 1,260 miles from 554 to 1814. And the reason why 1814 is because this last one, Napoleon Bonaparte, abdicated. Okay? Some of the travelers who got off on exit 554 believed that they were going nowhere, so they got tired of the woman and formed some villages and started protesting against her abuses. The Protestant Reformation. Now this video and this parable is assuming, I know a little bit, that you understand a little bit about Protestant and Laodicean church history as we go forward. Now, some of these people remembered certain markers and signs when they were on the highway with the road map. They recalled certain markers on the highway, one of them being righteousness by faith apart from the works of the law. 1,260 miles, righteousness by faith. It was unfortunate for some of them, since the windows of their cars were opened and winds came in, doctrines, and blew the maps out of their cars. Okay, now we come to exit 1517, which is right here. Okay, remember 1517? Luther nailing the 95 Theses to the church doors of Wittenberg? Exit 1517. Being lost and confused, they took exit 1517 on account of the fact that they recalled that there was an alternate route that ran parallel to Route 457. So here's your alternate route. Exit 1517. Okay? They failed to realize that they were on the alternate route and had veered off again. For a while it seemed that exit 1517 was the correct exit, but in reality it led to more confusion, as well as more false exits, as well as highways which ended up in the desert. Okay, false exits from exit 1517, ending up in the desert. Ah, the Admete signpost. Meanwhile, after a long drive, the others who remained en route 554 saw a sign prior to exit 1814. Now, a sign like this should actually have been here, but you get the idea. Saw a sign prior to exit 1814, right here, which revealed the Hebrew word Admete. This signpost translates as until when. Tired drivers. The drivers on exit 554 were confused as they exited into 1814, right here. after the 1260. Because remember, Daniel 12 is very specific. It says the 1260 comes first, 1290, 30 more years to the end of the 1290, and then 45 more years after 1844 was 1889, and that's the end of the 1335. Okay? Because you can't have the 1260 starting in 508 here on exit 508, and then the 1290 starting here, and then the 1260 starting at 538, when the Bible says that the 1260 starts first and then the 1290. So that's one huge reason why 508, 538, 1798 were a mistake in some of the figures on the 1843 chart. Tired drivers. The drivers on exit 554 were confused as they exited into 1814. The drivers later found out that the interesting thing about exit 1814 was the fact that they were not required to get off at this exit. But it was more like a stopover for tired drivers. In other words, they didn't make a mistake by stopping there. It was actually a very good idea. It wasn't one of the 5 main stations. 1, 2, 3, okay? And 4 and 5 comes in the next chart, the next part 2 with the Parable of the Village, Route 554. It was more like a place where you could briefly relax from your worries on the road and sit for a while and read or hear a news report. Right here. When refreshed, they would be able to get back on the road. Okay? Exit 1814. The interesting thing about exit 1814, right here, was the fact that there were televised news reports as well as newspapers which revealed the fall of those 5 warlord kings that the beautiful evil woman, the papacy, controlled during those 1260 miles or years from exit 554. Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon. Just come over to Christ's numbers. And I bet you won't forget that again. But the headlines on the newsstands at that brief stopover on exit 1814 revealed that all 5 were fallen and were no longer working with the woman. This was great news, since the road maps were once again available on the newsstand. Remember the whole history there that we have with the Bible? Suppressed and everything? This meant less worries on the highway for the next 30 miles, from exit 1814 to exit 1844. So they kept on driving, and the sign, Admite, kept popping up on the road map. One thing that those drivers knew was the fact that the 2,300 miles on Highway 457, they had to get off at exit 1844, but the problem was that they were now on the alternate route of 554. See, here's your route 457. But here's the alternate route of 554, 1260. The alternate route of 554 as well. We just needed to show you that there was 1260 here and 1290 from these points, but this alternate route goes all the way to here. Okay, so here's the 1290. Okay, exit 1798, confusion. The drivers of this alternate route, 554, recalled that there were other confused drivers which got off on exit 1798, right here, okay? which was 16 miles prior to exit 1814. Okay? The erroneous 46-mile journey. These drivers were very confused, since this second group also traveled for 1,260 miles from 538 to 1798. And there was also a third group which traveled an extra 30 miles, the extra 30 being here between 508 and 538, traveled 30 miles, or 1,290 in total. And for some strange reason, both groups still ended up on exit 1798. Wayward Route 538. One group started from Route 538 and traveled for 1,260 miles. The other group began their journey from Route 508, and they traveled an extra 30 miles, which was 1,290 in total, to 1798. But remember, Daniel says 1,260, 1,290, not 1,290, 1,260. That's the erroneous 46-mile journey. The drivers who were on alternate route 554 here recalled looking over to their right side and witnessed how both of these routes ended at exit 1798. But there was a problem. The drivers on 554 did not recall seeing the sign. There's no sign here which read Admite at exit 1798. There's no Admite here at 508, 538, or 1798. And that caused them to worry a bit. But by faith they continued driving until they could finally see up ahead what the sign truly meant. Admite. Concerning this and this, the daily and the transgression of desolation, which is the same as the abomination in chapter 12, concerning these two issues, points, the question by the another saint said, Admite, until when? And Palmoni said, unto 1844. Admite is the key. Until when? To here. Because 1290, as you see here, from 1844 back to 554 is 1290, and that does not reach to the erroneous exits of 508 and 538. To add to this confusion, there was a fourth group of drivers which took exit 508, and they traveled an extra 1,335 miles, and they arrived at exit 1843. So here's your exit 1843. From 508 to 1843 is 1335. But that is not the end of the unto 2,300 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. But the drivers on Route 554 did not recall seeing the Admite sign here as that fourth group exited on 1843. Admite is only on the road map prophetically and in our parable here on this road map regarding 554 and 1844. With the 1260 going to 1814, 30 more years to 1844, and 45 more years to 1889, which, remember 1888, the message of righteous by faith, the dividing line, 1889, the beginning of the latter rain. We're in the latter rain right now. Okay, now we come to, excuse me, exit 1844. This little circle right here that brings you up here to station number 3, exit 1844. As the first group that got off on exit 554, see here, was coming up onto exit 1844, they saw the sign Admite, along with clear instructions that they were to merge into route 457 and then enter exit 1844. So here's your exit 554. They're on this alternate route, runs parallel to route 457, but the clear instructions is that they're to enter back into route 457 and exit 1844, station number 3. Now they understood what this mysterious sign was all about. Admite was never understood. If it had been, there would have been no disappointment, there would have been no mistake in some of the figures on the chart, because we would have been able to correctly calculate. Once 1844 was corrected, we would have been able to correctly calculate that the 1290 has to start here, and all you have to do is count back, and you have the from the time that the daily shall be taken away and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there was to be 1290 years. Now they understood what this mysterious sign was all about. It was the word when, Mathe. The ad always goes to a point. Ad Mathe. It was the word when. When they would see the sign for exit 1844, they were to merge back into Highway 457 BC. The writer of the road map, called the Man in Linen, whom some people believed was actually the Son of the Father, and he is, had given prior instructions that were revealed on the road map. He stated on a footnote, right here, here's the Man in Linen's footnote, that when they would see the sign for exit 1844, they would emerge back into, would see the sign for exit 1844, they were to merge back onto the main route of 457, which went straight into exit 1844. See here? When on route 554, you see the sign exit 1844, merge back onto main route 457, which will take you straight into 1844. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. How neat. The beginning of Christ's antitypical final atonement, high priestly administration in the heavenly sanctuary, not made with hands. He had given clear instructions that if you veered off on the alternate route of 554, all wouldn't be lost, but you had to know that there was to be a 30-mile differential between exit 1814 and exit 1844. And 554, 1814, 1844 is the only dates that match the prophecy, the prophetic numbers of the Man in Linen of the 1260, 1290, and 1335, because this presents the only true 30-year differential between 1814 and 1844. It cannot come before the 1260, and it's not at the beginning. It's from the end of the 1260 to the end of the 1290. 46 miles shy. Those drivers who got off on exit 1798, well, actually, I think we might, we'll go for a little bit longer. Those drivers who got off on exit 1798, right here, failed to realize that there was a 46-mile difference between exit 1798 and exit 1844. And you see, you can't have a 46-mile difference when the Bible, Daniel 12, says that there was to be 30 miles, 30 years difference between the 1260 and the 1290. And that's hugely important. Those drivers who got off on exit 1798 failed to realize that there was a 46-mile difference between exit 1798 and exit 1844, which was the final exit leading to the Father's house at the end of the 2,300-mile journey, which commenced on starting route 457. Okay? Well, it just so happens that those other groups that veered off onto exit 1798 had to drive an additional 46 miles before they were able to see the sign for exit 1844. But the fact is that their erroneous 46-mile journey caused them to arrive late, as well as tired, and they were lacking fuel. Truth. They still rejoiced that they had arrived at the 1844 exit. And they all believed that they were correct, and that those on the alternate route, 554, were wrong, even though these individuals arrived before they did. Those who were on the alternate route, 554, were the first to enter the 1844 exit. The fourth group got off on exit 1843, here, and they also managed to find a back road which led them into the 1844, right here, here's your back road, lead them back into the 1844 exit. No one except those on alternate route 554 was paying attention. Well, as it turns out, all four groups made it into the Father's house. They were expecting to see the Father and the Son. 1844. It was a great disappointment. They thought he was coming. The cleansing of the sanctuary. But remember, the only sanctuary that existed after 70 AD, when it was destroyed by Titus, Jerusalem and the temple destroyed in 70 AD, the only one that existed was the heavenly sanctuary. And then it was, he's not coming to earth. It's not the earthly, it's the heavenly sanctuary. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, okay? But there was a very great disappointment, and a servant of the Father told all of them that they had indeed reached the Father's house, but that the 1844 exit only brought them into the third main station, station number 3, the third agenda. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, the third main station of the Father's house. They would not see the Father and the Son until they exited the 5th station, the 5th agenda, individual cleansing. That's where we are now. And when that's done, Christ comes. So with that, we'll take a little break and we'll continue. This is video series number 2. We just finished the first one, so the next one will be the third one. So keep watching and we'll get to the end of this. Thank you. Stay tuned.